of the Afghan Whigs. Welcome! You are listening to the Fallen Earth podcast with Crow Bennett. That is me, the only podcast that I know of about Fallen Earth since every other podcast got nuked off the face of the planet or infected with the Shiva virus when global tech ruined the world. I am your host, Crow Bennett, and we will be talking about all things Fallen Earth. The divergent community it was, became, and now remains a phantom shadow of its former self. We will talk about all things related to Fallen Earth, including things that are not specifically Fallen Earth related, such as large gaming communities that saw the huge potential of the game and invested hard, heavy, and early in this antiquated gem of an MMO. So, a skillful economy. I just got to say, that's where we left off. It's 1:56 a.m. Sunday, 9/25/2022, and I just got back from the New Orleans performance of the Afghan Whigs How Do You Burn tour. It's a lot of dates. It's more dates than they've done in quite a long time and over a lot wider of an area. They're going around the United States and to the they're going to the Europe. They're going to the Europe. And my friend Rick is he's the bass multi-instrumentalist in the band. And we've been working on some records together, and it's been a while since he's been on the road like that, and he looked like he was having a good time tonight. It was a smaller venue at One Eyed Jack's, and One Eyed Jack's presents here in New Orleans on Decatur Street, and pretty cool venue. Sound was decent. First band was from Canada called Pink Mountain Tops, and you know, I've been in the music business for a long time, and it sounds like a cruel joke, but it's really a harsh truth. Is that or were we talking about hard truths? I don't know. It is a hard truth that the opening band always, whether they're good or not, are made to sound not so good. So that the headlining act sounds amazing. Yeah, that really does happen. So, hard to tell if they were, I mean, they were tight for sure, but it kind of sounded like, let's see, Dead Girl and I were talking about it, and I was like, this kind of sounds like an alternative, and she's like, yeah, it's like folk alternative, and I could see that. So if you decide to check it out, give them referral code Crow Bennett 33 whatever my Discord thing is. I'm kidding. You're not going to get shit for free from them. They have $25 vinyls, and I wasn't buying one. I did get a poster, though, the Wish You Were Near tour poster for the Afghan Whigs, because it's the old cover. It's a mock-up of the old cover from Wish You Were Here, uh, which I think was that photo was taken with the man on fire and the other guy shaking his hand. I think that was taken at Paramount Studios. I really don't know, but I'm pretty sure that it was at one of the big movie studios out in Hollywood. I'm sure that's just a Google search away. Just the tedium. Where was Wish You Were Here? Album cover shot. Cover shot. There we go. Burbank. Abbey Road. Wait a minute. Burbank. Is there a Burbank in England? Um, it okay. The latitude is 34.147484, and the longitude is negative 118.338547. If that helps you any. Warner Brothers Studios, Burbank, California. Uh, songs and shit were recorded at Abbey Road in London, but the cover image, it's a famous image, uh, was taken by Aubrey Powell at Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank, California, USA. So Warner Brothers, I was wrong. It was not Paramount. Warner Brothers. Okay, moving on. Moving on. I'm at a point in the road, a point like a fork in the road here with this document. We have to get through it. We're on page 15 of 23. That's more than halfway. I will refer to this document and pieces of it, excerpts from it, um, in future analysis of the game. Uh, the hard launch, the alpha, the beta, uh, going from from launch to 1.1 to 1.2 to 1.3, 1.4, which were major phases, basically quarterly updates of a subscription base that Fallen Earth had. Um, there are, well, no proof, but there are. I have reasons to believe that because of the information and how he presents this information, that Mr. Bainbridge had been playing Fallen Earth uh, for number of years, maybe going back to 2010. He may say that, I don't know, but he may not have been doing research until after he started playing it and seeing that there was this actual good convergence and divergence, not only within the well, this guy's so smart, he predicted that, of course, if you have player versus player zones, that and you have these non-player factions that are constantly up your ass to do stuff for them and kill other people and kill their opposing faction, that this was going to inevitably lead to war and the decline of civilization, but in this case, maybe the game itself. So, all right. 2:04 a.m. I took a nap, slept late today, so I'm all vampired up, I guess, which is it goes with the theme here in New Orleans. Except N. Rice don't live here no more. Um, a skillful economy. I'm going to have to move this so I can. There we go. So my neck's not hurting. All right. What's that integrated circuit sound like? Okay. Sounds pretty good. Yeah. A skillful economy. When Gibbon was originally resurrected near the rim of the Grand Canyon. Boy, are we just jumping into it or what? Okay. Right in the rim of the Grand Canyon. At the very beginning of his climb up the status ladder of experience, he found himself in the village named Clinton, which was under attack from blade dancers. A gang of sword-wielding maniacs inspired by ancient Norse religion and led by a charismatic psychotic named Loki, after the Norse trickster god. Well, duh. But I guess it's, you have to cover all your bases, academia. Clinton had been a training site for park rangers, and several residents immediately began teaching Gibbon how to cope with this dangerous environment. The blade dancers were attacking in order to seize deadly toxins in a mine beneath the village, and one of Gibbon's first lessons concerned how to gather copper to make bullets for the weapon he first carried, a pathetic air rifle. Later on, he would be able to craft ammunition for a powerful rifle from copper, lead, steel, and gunpowder made from geologic and biological chemicals, all harvested from the environment. From missions and some defeated enemies, Gibbon gained poker chips he could spend with NPC vendors and in a very effective market, partly supplied by other players. But he made for himself much of what he needed using combinations of 11 different trade skills. 3 of them are primarily gathering specializations that take resources from nodes scattered across the landscape: geology, nature, and scavenging. Each node requires a specified level of skill to assess or access, and nodes near the high end of a player's skill can increase the skill up to a limit determined by the avatar's achieved level of 2 statistics. Need some, that's not Jeopardy music. Intelligence and perception, as well as general experience, which is your level. Others combine resources to create things, from bullets to medicines. Table 10.3 outlines all 11 trade skills, along with the maximum level Gibbon achieved when he ceased exploring Fallen Earth at the maximum general experience level. And I'll just name off the trade skills. There's a thing here that says e-proofing Springer, so this is something that is printed in a book. Armorcraft, ballistics, weaponry, geology, mutagenics, science, and there's support. Okay, the crafting. I never realized that, actually, that there were higher tree, like a higher tree from the trade skills. So you have combat trade skills, armorcraft, ballistics, and weaponry, research trade skills, geology, mutagenics, and science, support trade skills, cooking, medicine, and nature, and other trade skills, construction, and scavenging. All right, Gibbon reached the maximum levels of 196 with the 3 gathering professions, and equally high 180 levels of the 2 trade skills he emphasized for research purposes, medicine and science. He did not need to take the other trade skills to that level, but would have been a more effective fighter had he done so. At the higher levels of general experience, he carried two rifles, one in his hands and the other slung over his back. They used different ammunition, one medium caliber and the other heavy, as a hedge against the fatal error of exhausting his ammo, because if the gun in his hands ran out, he could switch to the one on his back and then replenish both before his next expedition into the wilderness. The ammunition used ballistics trade skill and required him to have reached level 45 in it before he could make any. Producing it raised his level still further, but not indefinitely. At level 75, he gained the ability to make more efficient kinds of ammo, but at much greater cost in materials, so he did not bother. Indeed, at that point, he found it more efficient to buy his ammo from the market and put his crafting effort into other skills. Another table he's referring to, same table, lists of some of the things Gibbon could make, having both the recipe and skill required. Only the most dedicated players take many skills to the maximum level of 196 because they can often buy or trade for what they need. Gibbon joined a clan in the Fallen Earth term for guild, but it was of very little use. Late in his history, he noticed that the guild leader was changing frequently and communicated with the current one, discovering that it had become merely a bank storage space for resources belonging to an all Russian clan called Red Alert. After the faction system changed, he read the tech chat frequently, finding little use to that player faction either. Useless text. Tremendously useful and interesting for my research was the help chat. Oh, God. Which was constantly filled with advice for new players, but also exchanges of advice among advanced players. It was a moderated chat with both game employees and respected players, enforcing a friendly tone and sharing vast amounts of valuable information. Central to all the attempts to rebuild civilization is information, which takes many forms, including the traditional medium through which classical civilization was reborn during the Renaissance, namely books. Crafting any particular product required a recipe contained in a book, some of which could be bought from NPC vendors, but it was also possible to scribe a recipe book using paper and pen, and by performing experiments, crafting specific products for which Gibbon already possessed the recipe. Another kind of book did not contain recipes, but rather very general wisdom about trade crafts, which librarians in each of the three sectors asked Gibbon to collect from rubbish scattered across the landscape. In fact, these books could not be read, but they symbolically represented the knowledge and technology requires. Gotta be a typo. 10.3 also lists the books for the Northfields collection, which Gibbon completed. Note that each book had to be collected twice to be bound together into two different topical collections. The collections themselves fit together into three major topic areas, which were a logical ontology, ontology. Where are you, Merriam-Webster? The branch of metaphysics dealing with the nature of being. So let's reread that sentence. The collections themselves fit together into three major topics, which were a logical ontology. Oh, second definition. A set of concepts and categories in a subject area or domain that show their properties and the relations between them, but not used during combat, crafting, research, and support. So he's talking about the omnibus books. This is why I believe this is one of the reasons, a sort of indicator that he was playing early on, because there would be no real benefit, I guess, to, I mean, yeah, to doing the omnibus books after the AP races and other ways to gain AP and do Dome and all that stuff came out. So, uh, moving along, as he prepared to leave Kaibab Forest and enter the highest levels of experience, Gibbon began thinking he really should advance more crafting skills than just science and medicine. Armorcraft and ballistics would be obvious choices because they would enhance his ability to defeat his enemies in battle. However, his goal was was knowledge more than power, so he decided to emphasize two trade crafts conceptually related to the ones he was already advancing: mutagenics and cooking. It appeared that mutagenics would require careful study, so he first worked on cooking. I'm sorry. Um, this is fascinating to me. I want to hold some of my commentary, but I gotta also acknowledge that William Sims Bainbridge did not grow up playing MMOs. In fact, he infiltrated the Process Church in 1978. So, like, video games. Um, Anywho, I can't give him too much shit for being a noob, is what I'm saying. Cooking provide Cooking proved useful when he was, because he's not a noob when it comes to sociology. Uh, and what he provided, this insight that he provided into this game, um, putting his academics to use for such a purpose is, I thank him for it. Cooking proved useful when he was doing a variety of missions for Shiva's favored in Deadfall, because he decided to do absolutely everything they asked of him, and two missions required producing edibles. He did not have the necessary skill level and lacked one of the required recipe books, so he cooked other things. At skill level 135, War Leader Caesar asked for 10 cheese biscuits. The ingredients to make 5 were 1 edible egg, 5 units of questionable grain, 2 each of questionable milk and savory spice, plus 1 unit of blue cheese. So Gibbon had to cook twice. 5 units of blue cheese required that Gibbon had studied the Cooking Components 3 cookbook, plus possessing 1 unit of savory spice and 2 each of questionable milk and questionable vegetable, while the biscuits themselves required him to have the Improved Baking 3 cookbook. Another, yeah, you thought cooking was going to be the easy route. Another of the Shiva's favored, Magda, wanted fried cola and fruit cobbler, the latter of which required cooking level 150 and possession of Advanced Baking 2 cookbook. Far more important, the Shiva's favored in Tabara needed the special serum that might allow them to survive in non-toxic environments. After Gibbon had retrieved some the rival Shiva's blessed sect, he began bringing load after load of ingredients from which more of the serum could be concocted. Each load earned him 50 points of general experience, 400 poker chips, and an additional 250 rep with Shiva's favored. A load consisted of units of average coagulant and 5 tattered splint packs, both of which Gibbon could make once he had raised his medicine skills sufficiently. And I believe that would be 150 if I remember correctly. I'm not sure. When he turned to mutagenics, Gibbon suffered a disappointment. Sometime during the gaps in time when he was not active, the mutagenics trade skill had been halted. and players bought the products from special new vendor. Another indicator that he was playing much earlier. Um, Players bought the products from special new vendors in major towns. Recipe books were no longer available, but Gibbon could himself create a new one. Gamma Manipulation 3, if he could raise his mutagenics experience level from 74 to 120 by crafting things for which he had already had the recipe. Gamma is one of the three energy pools, the other two being the usual MMO health variable that led to death if depleted to zero in combat, and stamina, which enables physical feats. Mutagenics could shift energy from one pool to the other, on the assumption that the clones coming out of the life pods were designed to permit such transfers given the application of the correct technology. Once he had a copy of Gamma Manipulation 3, he saw that it would enable him to produce a copy of Gamma Manipulation 4 and thus keep ascending the experience levels. However, Gibbon decided to invest time and energy into one other trade skill that he had not tried before: construction. Is he writing is this comedy? Which would allow him to make a farm. The first farm he could build in Fallen Earth turned out to be a rude shack, shown in Figure 10.3, and it required constant tending for many hours to raise crops, chickens, and cows. Thus, Gibbon found it both a chore and a disappointment, but adding to his understanding of what would be required to resurrect a fallen civilization. Conclusion. Page. Where are we at? Page is 2:22 a.m. Page 19. So there's only 4 pages left. We might make this a short one. Conclusion. Intellectually deep post-apocalyptic science fiction like Fallen Earth can have 3 meanings. First, it is a prophecy of the actual future that may lie ahead, unless social science achieves a better understanding of societal dynamics and gains sufficient political influence to steer humanity away from doom. Second, it offers a simulation of reality in which competing philosophies may be compared, certainly in terms of their claims and possibly also in terms of their consequences. Third, and most troubling, it represents what many people wish would happen, expressing their anger, their unfulfilled ambitions, and even their mixture of sadism and masochism. Meanwhile, the real news, transmitted over the internet, almost like an MMO in which the actions of the player may perform are limited to clicking on web links, becomes gloomier and gloomier. If post-apocalyptic science fiction represents dysfunction, for fuck's sake. If post-apocalyptic science fiction represents dysfunctional divergence, can convergence of all the sciences from physics to sociology accomplish something better? When William F. Ogburn, who the hell is that? Oh, another sociologist. Um, Born in Butler, Georgia, and died in Tallahassee, Florida, he was a statistician and an educator. Received his BA degree from Mercer University and his MA and PhD degrees from Columbia University. 1886 to 1959. Served as the president of the American American Sociological Society, later changed to Association in 1929. His presidential address, The Folkways of Scientific Sociology, was delivered at the organization's annual meeting in Washington, D.C. in December 1929 and was later published in the hearings of the 1929 meeting. Let's see what Bainbridge has to say about William Ogburn. When William F. Ogburn wrote about the mortal danger of nuclear war, he suggested several responses. Yet central was the belief that the world could no longer survive as separate nations that could battle each other, but must unite into a single, stable civilization. Let's read that again. Um, when William F. Ogburn wrote about the mortal danger of nuclear war, he suggested several responses. Yet central was the belief that the world could no longer survive as separate nations that could battle each other, but must unite into a single, stable civilization. The exact set of events that destroyed civilization and fallen Earth remains unspecified, but nuclear war between India and Pakistan triggered this tragedy, contaminating other nations through contagious biological weapons. While using caution to avoid being denounced as politically incorrect, the massive 2013 report, Convergence of Knowledge, Technology and Society, implies forcefully that world unification is essential if humanity is to survive. And that can be achieved only by replacing outdated political systems with a far more scientific form of government. Ogburn would have agreed. Spengler and Sorokin probably would have disagreed, and Gibbon might have considered this a noble goal, but beyond our ability to achieve. Here is but one of many paragraphs in the report expressing optimism but recognizing uncertainty. So this is Ogden from the 1929, what is it? 1929 Washington, D.C. annual meeting. You know, just an annual meeting of Sociological Society Association, ASA, the ASA. That's right. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. So Dickens described the revolutionary changes of a past century. But the words aptly describe the collection of scientific and social revolutions currently raging today. Some admirable, such as increased human connectivity enabled by new digital technologies, and the eradication of starvation and epidemic diseases in nation after nation facilitated by medical and social innovations. And some lamentable, such as global economic crises and bloodshed fueled by ethnic and ideological intolerance. The most powerful creations of the human mind, science, technology, and ethical society, must become the engines of progress to transport the world away from suffering and conflict to prosperity and harmony. Today, because science and society are already changing so rapidly and irreversibly, the fundamental principle for progress must be convergence, the creative union of sciences, technologies, and peoples focused on mutual benefit. The quotation that begins the paragraph originally began the novel A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, set in the context of the French Revolution. Also, a time when the science assisted industrial revolution was transforming society in ways that may primarily have been good, but unleashed many evils. Among the many ways to conceptualize our current times is to note three terrible questions framed around nuclear physics. Number one, can nuclear power save the Earth from disastrous pollution from the burning of fossil fuels? Number two, Must all nuclear technologies be abandoned to prevent any possibility of atomic war? And three, can fundamental physics answer our deepest questions about the nature of reality, perhaps thereby rendering religion obsolete? This third question does not get the attention it deserves in current popular discourse. Many physicists hope to discover abstract laws of nature, perhaps representing mathematical statements having absolute truth, to explain the relationships between constants of nature, such as the ratio of the mass of a proton to that of an electron. The public is only dimly aware of the noble struggles scientists of this perspective experience in pursuit of this dream reflected in a mysterious concept like string theory and dark energy. Yet there is an alternative perspective explored by many serious theorists that is not easily amenable to empirical test, most influentially expressed in the 1986 book The Anthropic Cosmological Principle by John D. Barrow and Frank J. Tipler. They note that life depends upon the characteristics and plenitude of the chemical element carbon. Yet, if the characteristics of certain isotopes of carbon, beryllium, and oxygen were quantitatively only slightly different than they are, the stars would not have produced sufficient carbon through the nuclear fusion by which all elements beyond hydrogen were formed. The sun would either be too cold or too short lived to support the long evolution of intelligent life on Earth if the gravitational constant were slightly different from its actual value. While the details are new, the fundamental point may not be, and it was enunciated in scientific terms over a century ago by Lawrence Joseph Henderson, a convergent leader of both biological chemistry and sociology at Harvard, in his provocatively titled book, The Fitness of the Environment. Indeed, Henderson suggested an explanation that had also been considered by the ancient Greeks called the argument from design, that seeks to prove the existence of God on the basis that the world seems so well suited for human life that it must have been created intentionally to serve this purpose. The anthropic principle is not necessarily a rehash of the design argument, however, because today we are aware that the universe is vast and thus the suitability of our planet for intelligent life may merely be a selection effect. That's a term, a scientific term, I'm pretty sure. Selective effect. Let's check that out. Selective effect. Definition. An action whereby a reinforcer may have a greater effect on some responses than on others. That is the APA. So it's a psychological term. Selective action, selective effect, selection effect. Let's see if there's a sociological term. Selective exposure theory. Selective exposure, would that fit? The anthropic principle is not necessarily a rehash of the design argument. However, but because today we are aware that the universe is vast, and thus the suitability of our planet for intelligent life may merely be selection effect. So, chance. In an infinitely diverse universe, one planet somewhere will be sustainable just by chance. An empirical challenge for the anthropic theory is the fact that astronomers generally find that essentially the same natural laws are in effect as far as their telescopes can see. However, clearly most planets are unsuitable for life, and the universe may be much larger than the realm we can currently observe. For example, one model of the origins of our universe say that it began with an inflationary period much more extensive than the popular conception of the Big Bang, and that universes may even generate offspring universes through a potentially infinite series of such explosions, each with slightly different physical parameters. The notion that an infinite number of parallel but diverse universes, there's no S there, but it should be, might exist sound like science fiction fantasy. Yet, serious scientists have explored such possibilities. These ideas are certainly compatible with chaos theory. And let's just look that up real quick in case you don't know what that is, so that we're on the same page. Chaos theory, sociology. Chaos theory aims to find the general order of social systems and particular social systems that are similar to each other. The assumption here is that the unpredictability in a system can be represented as overall behavior, which gives some amount of predictability even when the system is unstable. All right, so these ideas are certainly compatible with chaos theory in mathematics and thus applicable across all the rigorous sciences. A theory paper I gave at the 1996 meetings of the American Sociological Association subsequently published in a book titled Chaos and Complexity in Sociology went one step further, proposing that a particular moment in time, called Omicron, represented a tipping point, after which chaos would degrade rather than construct human reality. Omicron is a letter near the middle of the Greek alphabet, little o, while the last letter is omega, big O. Omega may sing. Omega may signify an ultimate goal. And for theologian and amateur scientist Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the omega point represented the point of convergence of God and man, possibly at a specific time in the future. But if God does not exist and every human life serves no transcendent goal, the key point in time may be near where we currently are rather than in some ideal future. So, just to clarify, Bainbridge, in his book Chaos and Complexity in Sociology, went one step further, proposing that a particular moment in time called Omicron, not Omega, Omicron, represented a tipping point after which chaos would degrade rather than construct human reality. Omicron is a letter near it's right in the middle of the Greek alphabet. And that Pierre Cardin posited this omega point. All right, so represented the point of convergence of God and man, possibly at a specific time in the future. But if God does not exist and human life serves no transcendent goal, the key point in time may be near where we currently are, rather than in some ideal future. There's no time like now. Omicron is the moment when the question was, for the first time, well and fully asked, why is the world suitable for human life? Humans may have wondered about the fitness of the environment since our prehistoric beginnings, but perhaps the question cannot be asked in all its implications until science had documented the complexity of the universe. Writing in Scientific American, George Gale dated it precisely to work done in 1961 by Princeton physicist Robert H. Dickey. Might be pronounced Dyke or just Dick. Yet, we might also say some ancient Greek philosophers already asked the pivotal question in the laws, Plato's laws. Plato seeks to demonstrate the existence of the gods with the argument from design. And quote, why to begin with think of the earth and the sun and the planets and everything, and the wonderful and beautiful order of the seasons with its distinctions in years and months, unquote. If all the laws of nature are determined ultimately by the conditions required for someone to ask the pivotal question, then it is logical to deduce that those conditions will begin to erode slowly but inexorably after Omicron. So he's putting his he's staking some of his theory or his what did he say? Going one step further, he's stepping out onto Plato's laws and saying, uh, why to begin with think of the earth, the sun, the planets, and everything, and all the wonderful and beautiful order of the seasons with its distinctions of years and months, if all the laws of nature are determined ultimately by conditions required for someone to ask the pivotal question. It's a paradox, right? Then it is logical to deduce that those conditions will begin to erode slowly but inexorably after Omicron. Yes, the physical universe can persist for billions of years, but there is no reason to believe that any sociological laws exist beyond those required to support a philosopher like Plato in a city state like ancient Athens. If that argument is strictly true, then all societies more complex than the ancient Greek city states are precarious constructions beyond what nature requires. The possibility resonates with the theories of Gibbon, Spengler, and Sorokin. If Gibbon was right that the Roman Empire was an unlikely and difficult social construction beyond what humans can normally sustain, then the same is probably true for all of modern civilization. If Spengler is right that each civilization is based on an idea, then all of human existence may be based on a bigger idea, such as the existence of God, that will fail in the decades after the Omicron point gives the pivotal question its modern anthropic answer. The optimist in this trio, Sorokin, would predict a permanent sine wave of historical oscillation far into the human future as societies temporarily converge at scales larger than ancient Greek city state, periodically crashing back to basics, as in fallen Earth. And that is the end of this document. So there are 35 references. I'll just go through these quickly. Ones that, you know, may be of use. There's 35. I'm not going to go through all 35. The City of God by St. Augustine, 1903. The History of the Decline and Fall of Roman Empire, New York, Hearst and Company, by Gibbon. Bainbridge, Sociology, New York, Barron's, Korzybski, Manhood of Humanity, Science and Sanity, An Introduction to Non-Aristotelian Systems and General Semantics. That's the International Non-Aristotelian Library. Spengler, The Decline of the West. That's probably reading material in some of the colleges here and universities and stuff here in New Orleans and Baton Rouge. Suicide of the West by J. Burnham. The Death of the West by Pat Buchanan. Suicide of a Superpower, also by Pat Buchanan. Social and Cultural Dynamics by Sorkin, P.A. Sorkin. Fads and Foibles in Modern Sociology and Related Sciences, P.A. Sorkin. He cites a Steam community shared file. That's great. I really want to check that link out. Let's see what this is. Steam. He's got a Steam community cited in his fucking college book. Sorry, an error was encountered while processing your request. That item does not exist. It may have been removed from the author. Okay. He's got a link for the starter towns. Bill Gates, The Road Ahead. I have never finished a Bill Gates book, but I do like reading Bill Gates books. Faith versus Fantasy in Computer Gaming. New York, Oxford University Press, William Bainbridge. Faction changes, Rocco Bainbridge. Convergence of Knowledge, Technology, and Society, Springer Publishing, Rocco Bainbridge, and or MC Rocco, William Bainbridge. There's a lot of collaborative publishing listed here. Mandelbrot, B.B. Mandelbrot, The Fractal Geometry of Nature, and The Future of Man, Pierre Cardin, The Anthropic Principle, Scientific American, 1981, and The Laws of Plato. So with that, we have effectively in less time than I thought, actually made it through the entire Bainbridge document. It's only 35 pages, but boy, isn't that some dense material. That is some dense stuff, and I really even took it. I went fast, kind of blew through it. Maybe should have went slower. But as I said, I will refer to it later. For now, we'll catch you on the next podcast. It's 2:48 a.m. Sunday, 9/25/2022. Boosh.